Okay, let's get into this. Picture it. Japan, summer of 1945. I mean, cities just incinerated, right? A suffocating blockade strangling the country. And this huge Allied invasion is not just a threat, it's looming. Yet, somehow the leadership is stuck, just completely trapped in this tragic inability to surrender. So today we're doing a deep dive. We're looking into those secret meetings, the huge decisions that finally broke that stalemate, focusing on what's called the Emperor's Choice. You've got a great stack of sources for us, and our mission really is to figure out what was the critical mix, external pressure versus individual will that finally made Japan capitulate.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating, kind of paradoxical here, is how standard military logic was just flipped on its head. Japan's military leaders, they were clinging to this almost mystical belief, spiritual superiority of Yamano Damashi, and this idea of honorable death, kyokusai. So defeat wasn't a strategic loss in their eyes. It was more like a test of national honor, suggesting surrender. That was seen as like the ultimate betrayal.
That deep ideological thing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely key to understanding why they were so deadlocked. So how did that paralysis actually, work? Who are the main players?
Well, at the very top, you had the Supreme Council for the Direction of the War, the Big Six, people call them, and they were just hopelessly split. You had the hardliners, War Minister Anami is a key example, totally committed to Ketsugo.
That final battle plan.
Exactly. A huge, almost apocalyptic fight plan for Kyushu. And the goal wasn't even victory. It was about inflicting such horrific casualties on the Allies that they could somehow preserve the Kokutai.
In Kokutai, that's way more than just government.
Whoa, absolutely. It's this unique sacred idea of Japanese identity with the emperor's divine role right at the absolute center, untouchable.
Okay, so that's the hardline view. What about the other side? The peace faction. What were they hoping for?
They were kind of desperately hoping the Soviets would step in, mediate some kind of deal, led by Foreign Minister Tugo. The tragic thing is they had no idea the Soviets were actually gearing up to attack them.
And the Allies knew this.
Oh, yeah. Allied intelligence, through the magic code-breaking program, they were reading Japan's diplomatic traffic. They knew about the Soviet plans. But inside that Big Six Council, decisions needed everyone to agree. Unanimity. Which meant, well, total paralysis, gridlock.
Right. Nothing gets done.
Yeah.
Then, August 6th, Hiroshima, the first atomic bomb. But it wasn't an instant game changer for everyone, was it? There was skepticism.
Yeah, initially, especially in the military, some doubted it was really atomic or maybe thought the U.S. only had one. Just incredible denial, really. But here's the truly crucial part. August 8th. This is before the Soviets invade, before Nagasaki. Emperor Hirohito himself decides. The war has to end.
It was huge, wasn't it? His first direct intervention like that.
Absolutely unprecedented. His first go seidan, the sacred decision. He explicitly told his advisors, citing the suffering of his people, his concern for the imperial house, a total break from that fight to the last military mindset.
And then, barely a day later, August 9th, a double whammy.
Exactly. Just after midnight, the Soviet Union declares war, invades Manchuria. Poof. Any hope of Soviet mediation just vanishes.
And Nagasaki.
And Nagasaki gets hit with the second bomb. That combination, it basically destroyed the strategic logic for Ketsugo. Tokyo's in an even deeper crisis now.
So the Big Six are still deadlocked, even after all that.
Still split, 3-3. So Prime Minister Suzuki does something else extraordinary during that imperial conference, night of the 9th into the 10th. He directly asks the emperor for his decision.
And Hirohito
sides with the peace faction, agrees to accept the Potsdam Declaration, but crucially, with one condition: preserving the prerogatives of His Majesty as a sovereign ruler.
Okay, that sounds like a sticking point. What did that really mean?
For the hardliners, it meant everything. Maintaining the emperor's divine, unchallengeable authority, the absolute core of the Kokutai, not just a title.
So how did the Allies reply to that condition? That must have been tricky.
It was. The U.S. reply on August 12th was quite clever, diplomatically speaking. It said the emperor's authority would be subject to the supreme commander, meaning the Allied commander, and the final form of government decided by the freely expressed will of the Japanese people.
Which the hardliners would see as
Totally unacceptable. Stripping the emperor of his sacred status, so bam, deadlock again.
And there were coup threats brewing, too.
Yeah, radical junior officers were furious. So facing this renewed paralysis, the coup threats, Hirohito steps in again, August 14th. He accepts the Allied terms, full stop, and then makes another unheard of decision to broadcast his surrender message himself. directly to the nation.
Bypassing the military entirely.
Completely, which led to that failed Kiju incident, officers trying to seize the recording, and War Minister Anami committing seppuku. A really dramatic, tragic end.
Then August 15th, the broadcast.
The Jewel Voice broadcast. The first time the vast majority of Japanese people ever heard their emperor's voice. He talks about the new and most cruel bomb, the suffering, justifies bearing the unbearable, but he never actually says surrender or defeat.
Incredible. So pulling it all together, what's the takeaway on the cause of surrender? Historians still argue, right?
Oh, fiercely. Look, the atomic bomb certainly gave them a face-saving excuse, a way out. Shikaraganai, it cannot be helped. Even the emperor used that kind of language.
Provides cover. Right?
Something like that. But the Soviet invasion, that provided the urgent imperative. That was the strategic knockout blow, destroyed the Ketsugo logic, and crucially raised the fear of Soviet influence, even occupation.
Okay, so bomb as excuse, Soviets as imperative.
And then the final piece, the emperor. His unique, almost godlike authority was the only thing, really, that could break that internal stalemate, legitimize surrender to the military and the nation.
Without him stepping in, it's hard to see it ending when it did. Maybe not without much more bloodshed.
Exactly. And when you think about it, that whole desperate struggle in those last days, it was all about preserving the Kokutai. Every argument, every potential sacrifice.
Which leads to the massive irony, doesn't it?
Huge irony.
The emperor makes this choice, this sacred decision, specifically to save the throne, to save that Kokutai from being wiped out completely. And that very act becomes the thing that allows for its total transformation. The old Kokutai is dismantled, replaced by a symbolic monarchy under a constitution basically written by the US. It really makes you think, doesn't it? How often do our most desperate attempts to hold on to something actually pave the way for it to change completely? Something for you to ponder. We hope this deep dive gave you some new angles on it.